نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Respected viewers and listeners, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In continuation of our Quranic understanding program, today we shall try to learn a few more verses concerning law of inheritance, which we studied a part of it yesterday. After the person dies and he leaves wealth behind, or property or estate, that inheritance, how it is to be distributed between sons and daughters, and how much share your parents have, father, mother, and how your brothers, sisters, how much they deserve, if the case is exceptional cases like that. Now, in today's verses, if we go for in continuation of this law of inheritance, that means distribution of inheritance amongst spouses. Wife dies, how much husband has a right out of her estate or property. The husband dies, how much wife has to take. It's regarding that and some more things also. This verse number 12. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful. Walakum nisfu ma taraka azwajukum. For you is half what your wives leave behind. I explained because translation we have already learned yesterday. I shall only now try to explain just explain it. Walakum, for you is, or males, or husbands, or males, for you is nisf, half, ma taraka azwajukum, what your wives leave behind if they die. Then wife dies, husband is alive. And for husband there is a nisf, half of it. Not we see today what we do. A wife dies, all the property goes automatically to husband. Because he is the master, he is the head of the family. We don't know. It all cannot go to him. Only half will go to him. Provided illam yakullahunna walad. If those your wives didn't leave behind their children, that means if they're childless. But if they're childless, then when a wife dies, husband gets one half, not whole. What about the rest? Then shares are defined. There's a part, if her parents are alive, it goes to mother and sister, mother and father, as we read yesterday. Not whole goes to father. See, in this mirror, why do we stand? Do we know this? If we know, do we do it? Nothing doing. We are not bothered. We are not concerned. See Quranic law. Walakum nisf, or males, or husbands, yours is half. Ma taraka azwajukum, what your wives leave behind their estate or property after if they die first. Then, if they don't, if the husband and wife are childless, they don't have children, then one half goes to husband. Now the normal situation, wife dies, she has husband, but she has children also. Children, sons and daughters. And here you have to remember, children, daughters, she has children, whether from this husband who is alive or from any previous husband. Law is the same. You have to remember it. If they have children, that means if, after their death, those women leave behind husband and children also. In that case, not half. Half shall not go to you. Oh, husbands, be careful. Half shall not, only 1/4 will go to you. 1/4 part to you, of husbands. Mimma tarakna, what they leave behind. Mimba the wasitin yusina biha, after fulfilling that bequest or will which they might have made, not compulsory if they have made it. Or then, or after the liquidation of debts, if they have, if they owe any money to anybody, that to be liquidated. And of course, I told you, first funeral expenses are to be paid out of that. Simple words I tell you. A woman dies. She has husband and they are childless. Automatically, half of wives, what she leaves behind her estate and wealth or property, that goes to her husband. Rest will be distributed legally, other years. And if they have children, husband, wife and children, and wife dies, 1/4 shall go to husband. And rest will be distributed among her children, sons and daughters, in the ratio of 2:1. as explained yesterday. Right? Now the other way around. If you die, husband, if you die and you leave behind wives, what is it? That's what I was telling you. The women have right. They take وَلَهُنَّ الرُّبُعُ. And for them is 1/4 مِمَّا تَرَكْتُمْ. What you leave behind. That means, oh husbands, if you die first, and you leave behind property, estates, land, anything, cash or kind you leave behind, then for them is 1/4 what you leave behind, not whole, not nothing, no 1/4. But there is a condition. إِن لَمْ يَكُنْ لَكُمْ وَلَدٌ. If you don't leave behind children, you have no children, if you are childless, then your wife gets 1/4 of what you leave behind. When the children, I told you earlier, their children may be from this wife who died, or from your other wives, or previous wife, or other living wife, anything. Then only 1/4 shall go to your wife if you die first, if you don't have children, When كان لكم ولد, if they have children, those wives, whether those children are from this husband or from previous any husband, if she got married to somebody else, in that case, فَلَهُنَّ الثُّمُنُ. Then there's only 1/8 what you leave behind. After that, 1/8 can go to your wife. If you die first, 1/8. If you are childless, then 1/4 to wife. If you are you have children, leave behind children, then 1/8 will go to you. So this comprehensive law, that makes, again, ratio is maintained, 2:1. Husband gets half and 1/4. Wife gets 1/4 and 1/8. That was ratio 2:1, as explained yesterday. لِذَكَرِ مِثْلُ حَظِّ الْأُنثَيَيْنِ. That for male is share equal to 2 females. That applies here also automatically. مِمَّا تَرَكْتُمْ. What you leave behind, that's to be distributed among your wives. If there are, that means if one has more than one wife, 2 wives maybe, or 3 wives, then 1/4 and 1/8 is to be equally distributed among those wives. Not each wife gets 1/8, this also 1/8, this also 1/8, this also 1/8, or 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, then nothing will be left out of that. If husband dies and leaves behind wives, and he has wealth and no children, if he has more than one wife, 1/4 will be taken out from this property and distributed among the wives. If there's only one whole, 1/4 will go to her. If there are more than one, then that 1/4 will be distributed equally between wives. If they have children, then 1/8. A single wife, 1/8. If more than one wife, 1/8 will be distributed among those wives, if one or more than 2. من بعد وصية توصى after the fulfillment of those, as explained before, about if any bequest or any will has been made, but that too up to 1/3, and according to the law which doesn't violate the divine law, and no wasiya in favor of waris, in favor of legal here, who already gets, you cannot make a will for your child, for your son, for your daughter, for your husband, or for your wife. They're already legal here, they'll get part. You cannot, the Prophet categorically said, peace be upon him, La wasiyatu lil waris. For a legal here, there's no scope for will or bequest. Okay? Of thine, or if there is any debt that's to be liquidated. The number of priority goes again, I repeat, just for reminding you. First, we have to take the funeral expenses. وَإِنْ كَانَ رَجُلٌ يُورَثُ كَلَالَةً. But now then, exceptional case. Now, if a man dies, Quran says, or a man or a woman dies, he's a kalala. Quran uses the word kalala. Kalala means, the Quranic terminology, kalala means a man or a woman dies. He's not married, he doesn't have a husband, right? Obviously, he or she doesn't have children also. And her parents have passed away, so she's left in between. And man or that woman dies. Neither they have ascendants nor descendants. Whether it's male or female, neither father, mother, or grandfather. Father, you should remember, includes father, grandfather, and great-grandfather. And he doesn't have descendants. That means he doesn't have sons, daughters, or grandsons, granddaughters. Nothing. Now, what is to be done with the proper? This is an exceptional case, extraordinary situation. But this does happen. Of course, rarely, but that is, Quran has a law for that too. In Kalarajun Yurasu Kalala, if a person who leaves behind his property or inheritance, but he's a Kalala, having neither descendants, neither father, grandfather, grandfather, nor descendants, sons, daughters, or grandsons, granddaughters, or any, no, nothing doing. Then what? But Quran says, Wallahu akhun aw ukhtun. But if that dying person has a brother or a sister, brother or sister, that a part of the wealth will go to him. فَلِكُلِّ وَاحِدٍ مِّنْهُمَا السُّدُسُ. For each, that father, brother, sister shall go 1/6 part of it. 1/6. Only that, not whole. The rest is to be distributed among other legal heirs, which Quran explains will kurba, what are those, the closest relatives that shall go to them, according to ratio, proportion. Fine kanu, aksar min dhalik. But if there are, firstly, just one sister or one brother, then 1/6 shall go to each of them. But when kana aksar min dhalik, if there are brothers sisters more than that, then 2, 3, 4, 5 brothers or sisters jointly, then what is going to how is to be distributed. Quranic law explaining, فَهُمْ شُرَكَاءُ فِي الثُّلُثِ. Then they become partners out of 1/3. That means this is property 1/3. If he has 100,000, that means 33.33 thousand will be taken out. That is for the brothers and sisters, and that is to be equally distributed among brothers and sisters. Here, ratio 2:1 shall not apply, as explained by Prophet, peace upon him. No 1:2, equally among brothers and sisters. 1/3. Rest will be taken care. Quran takes care of that too. How much shall go to others? Or uncle, if they are allowed. If not uncle, patron uncle, then their children. Like that. There are 6 shares for that too. That's why I said there's beyond the scope of this class to explain every detail. Neither am I authorized, nor competent, nor is it necessary for you people, nor can most of us understand or even remember that. These are overall laws which we need to know. And in exceptional cases, we need to refer to some experts, Muslim experts of jurisprudence. We call them muftis, real muftis, who are well educated, well trained, well qualified for that, who know the intricacies of law in the light of Quran and Sunnah. We refer to them. The Quran says, فَإِنْ كَانُوا أَكْثَرَ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. If a person dies, no father, mother, no son, daughters, and rest, only brother, now brother or sister, then 1/6 shall go to both of them. But if they are more than 2 brothers, sisters, many, from Shuraka, so then their partners, and they'll take a share out of 1/3. That 1/3 property is to be taken out of that inheritance and equally distributed among brothers and sisters in a ratio 1:1:1:1. No 2:1, equally. As I again tell you, not our interpretation. Not an interpretation of anybody else other than Prophet, peace upon him. So we have to take Quran is best explained by Prophet. Min ba'di wasiyatin yusa biha, then, or after fulfilling that, because if might have been made by the deceased or after the liquidation of the debts. Gair mudar, without causing any harm to anybody. That means a bequest or will should not be done in a way which deprives of a genuine legal heir of his rights. That's the sin. Prophet said that's the sin, not just a sin, a grave and great sin. As we see in the next verse, وَمَنْ يَعْصِ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ, and who disobeys Allah and the Messenger, makes a will, which through that will he tries to break the law of Allah. He violates the law of inheritance. That's not acceptable. That is to be rejected. If we have we are well-wishers of the deceased, we need to change it. Otherwise, he'll be roasted alive. His grave will become a pit of fire. He'll be called, as Quran says, Khalidan fiha. Khalidan fiha means he will die, he will be burned in hell forever. Forever is meant only for disbelievers. But who, Quran here says, who disobeys the law of inheritance of Allah, or violates it, or tries to amend it of his own free will by whether going for will or bequest or some other ways. No, that's not to be entertained. Wasiyatan min Allah, because these are instructions, direct ordinances from Allah. How come, what right have you to? Can you have any right? Wallahu alim, because Allah is all-knowing. So He knows what to do and to whom what to give to whom. Halim, but He's forbearing. He gives you a chance to set yourself right. That at the end of the day, Quran says, Tilka hududullah, these are the limits set by Allah. That's the law which has been explained. These are the limits set by Allah. These are limits. وَمَن يُطِيعِ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ, and who obeys Allah and His Messenger. That will, in general, in every dimension of one's life. But here it is specific. That's what we call the reference to context. Means about the laws of inheritance. Who follows them in letter and separate. Yudkhilu Jannat, Allah shall admit him in the gardens of paradise. Tajri min tahtiha al-anhar, beneath which flow streams. Khalidina fiha, they shall abide in those gardens. وَذَلِكَ الْفَوْزُ الْعَظِيمُ, and that's a great attainment. But here we have to remember some points which have been explained by hadith in the light of Quran by Prophet, peace upon him. For example, as exceptional cases, a person dies, a male dies, leaves behind wife, and the wife is pregnant. Wife is pregnant. Even if it is in the initial stage of pregnancy, but it comes to light that she has conceived. Their wife has legal share, either 1/4 or 1/8, right? Even that new unborn baby has a right in the property. He will, once he is born, if male, he'll inherit double. If female, daughter, she will inherit. This is what we need to know. Similarly, if a person divorces his wife, divorce, revocable, what we call talaq rajia, revocable, this divorce. And if that period is going on, that means for those women who have been given talaq, or divorce, as we know, the women who have been divorced, they have 3 months of iddat, 3 months iddat, waiting period for them is 3 months. If a person dies and he'll divorce his wife, but in that period has not been complete, she's just 1 month, 2 months, or around that, that wife shall get share, because she is still his wife. Maybe he might have revoked that talaq. That divorced women wife shall also get a share out of, according to law of Quran. That is 1/4 or 1/8, depending upon the situation. That this is another thing. Similarly, if a husband has divorced his wife, and then that wife also gets share if she's in that period, or if she's conceived her baby. Then once he's born, whether male or female, he'll get according to ratio. According to proportion, as explained in Quran, we have to keep that in mind. Similarly, there are a couple of cases where a person is deprived of inheritance. He doesn't get inheritance. Son cannot get inheritance from father, nor father can get or mother can get from son or others. But there are certain rules. Number one, if a person becomes apostate, as a believer or somebody, and he abandons his faith, he says, I'm not a Muslim, and he declares that I abandon faith of Islam. We call that Islamic terminology murtad. He becomes murtad on apostate. Automatically, if his father dies, he'll not get any portion out of it. Or if his son, the father becomes apostate. After the death of the son, father shall not get nothing. Same it applies if his husband is there. He takes the course of apostasy. He becomes murtad. denies faith, denies Quran and Sunnah, and says, I'm not a Muslim, shall have no share from wives who is a believer, probably she is a believer, true believer. Vice versa, a wife becomes an apostate. She abandons her faith, she loses rights. That apostasy deprives a person from the legal shares of, according to that, what has been prescribed in Quranic law of inheritance. Similarly, one more thing is to be, so that's, if a person kills another person of whom he is a legal inheritor, for example, he loses the right, he is deprived, he loses the right of inheritance. For example, as is happening now, it has happened in history, and even now it is happening. That when a father is killed by son, son kills his father, and according to law, after the death of his father, he had every right from his share. He'll get due share from fathers. But since he's the killer, he has killed the person from whom he had to inherit. This deprives him, that son will not get any inheritance. It is vice versa. If father kills son, since according to Quran, which we did just yesterday and today also, yesterday in fact, last time, that among the wealth left by the son, there is a portion for mother and father also. But if father kills the son, he loses that right. He will not get, even if he is a believer, he will not get any portion. He is deprived of it. It applies to all. Or husband kills wife, or wife kills husband. Or any legal here who is expected to get a share out of one's property left behind as a source of inheritance, loses that right of inheritance if he kills the person from whom he was expected to inherit. These are some different. And one more thing. In this case, where we also, sometimes we don't understand that. That means, if a person, for example, is killed by somebody, as happens, disputes or properties or in business or some enmity, jealousy, a person is killed. And then, according to Quranic law, Quran upholds capital punishment. Yes, the person, if proved guilty of murder, as we read in Al-Baqarah, I hope you remember verse number 178. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kutiba alaykumul qisasu fil qatla al-hurr bil hurri wal abdu bil abdi wal unsa bil unsa. But Quran also says, faman ufiya lahu min akishin fatibun bil ma'ruf wa adam ilayhi bi ihsan. Though the nearest of kin of the person has been assisted, has every right to take revenge. That means the person can be hanged, killed, yes. But if the nearest of kin forgives, that means there's some reconciliation. There's some reconciliation. And here the murderer is forgiven, but the nearest of kin, her husband dies, wife forgives that killer. Our son forgives his father's killers. But it's not to be just forgiven once for all. Quran says, no, there are set norms. A blood money is to be decided according to the norms of the time and the financial status of the concerned. As we see in courts, cases are being decided, or in our Darul Ifta, Muftis decide the cases. And for example, it is decided, okay, now there will be no, the person nearest of kin has forgiven the murderer. But in Islamic terms, as I explained that time, reading verse number 178, there is no scope in Islamic system that somebody is a murderer and president forgives him, or prime minister forgives him, or chief justice forgives him. No scope for that. It's the nearest of kin, because he bears the wound. He's hurt, he's injured, his interests are at stake. His future becomes bleak. How come any third person, even if he may be enjoying the high status or political hierarchy or in judicial system or anywhere? Okay, let's forget about that. That is explained before. Now, the person has been murdered or the assassin has been forgiven. Now, blood money is decided. Yes, this has to give specific money. For example, 1 million Indian or $100,000 or anything is decided mutually. That blood money is to be paid in any case to the nearest kin of the deceased or the husband killed. Now what is to be done to that person? It doesn't, if amount is paid to the son, he cannot enjoy it fully. It's not his right only. Or the husband dies, wife gets 100,000 or anything. No, according to Quran and Sunnah, that amount which is paid as blood money to the nearest kin is to be considered his inheritance. It is his inheritance. And that amount is to be distributed among the legal heirs according to this law of inheritance. That's how son gets double, daughter half, father gets 1/6, mother 1/6, like that. Wife 1/4 or 1/8. That blood money is to be taken or considered to be an inheritance of the person. And that money shall not go to a single person. Husband is killed, wife will get everything. Father dies and husband is killed, and son gets everything. No, that money is to be considered as his inheritance and then distributed according to this law of inheritance. Please take care. That is a few things we need to know, we need to understand. There are many more things, but I think that's enough. Because we can't go into all the details, the intricacies. We are not muftis. A mufti is not standing before you. A young, or not young, I'm not young, obviously. I mean, an ordinary student of Quran is before you, who is trying to learn himself and asking others, you too try to learn. Maybe you learn 100 times better than me. That's why we close it here. صدق الله العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم والحمد لله رب العالمين.